With commentary and analysis on our hometown teams, this is the Bucky and Sully Show. Presented by Dave's Christmas Wonderland. 2 locations, Union Road, Cheektowaga, and Transit Road, Williamsville. Now, from the WBBZ-TV studio, here are Buffalo News sports columnists Bucky Gleason and Jerry Sullivan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bucky and Sully Show. I'm here with Tom Brady lover Jerry Sullivan. I'm Bucky Gleason, of course.
No, you had to start. You had to start. I've never said that I had a great admiration for him as a person. I happen to think that he's a little goofy. I don't like his taste in women. I think he's shallow.
Really?
I think he's the best quarterback of all time. So let's get that straight. You're suggesting that I have a real affection for him the way I do for Fitz. It's not the same.
Oh, it's not quite the same. So you wouldn't walk around with a Brady jersey is what you're saying.
Right.
Well, let's get to the report because the report is pretty telling. You know, when you go through it, I don't know if you've read all 254 pages. I'm going to guess that you did not.
I read 45 today, skimmed.
That's pretty good. But when you go through it, Sully, what comes through to me are the text messages. You know, there's the way that the language that lawyers use, it's all lawyered up, the thing. And it says, you know, more likely than not, more probable than not. I mean, just vague little things. To me, Sully, it comes in the text messages between the 2 knuckleheads that were running the locker room attendant and, you know, the other equipment guy. When those 2 guys talk to each other, casually speaking, if you can't read between the lines to see that Tom Brady knew what was going on and actually was ordering what was going on, then you're a fool.
Yeah, what Goodell needed was video camera of the guy in the bathroom, McNally, deflating the footballs the way they had the video in the elevator of Ray Rice.
Right.
Because it's really hard to dispute that, but otherwise you're not in a court of law and you just don't know. There's no 100% truth, so you're going to have the generally aware and all these vague. But we pretty much know what happened. I mean, I find it hard to believe that what Brady wanted was the footballs all to be just down to the minimum 12.5 PSI. I think this wouldn't have happened if he didn't want them lower than that.
What I had a problem with as much as anything else, Sully, is that Brady refused to give up his cell phone in the whole thing. If he doesn't have anything to hide, why not give the thing up? I mean, I know he doesn't have to. That's his right to privacy, and it's not a court of law, but give it up. Those other guys did.
Yeah, well, they're not Tom Brady.
So what are you worried about? They're going to go through his contacts and find out who else he's talking to?
I think there's phone numbers of famous people in there. There's Giselle. Who knows what I just think he should have given it, but I could see if the rationale was like, I'm a famous guy and I've got all kinds of stuff in my phone and you're not going to see it. I could see that, but it still doesn't make him look good. I'm saying, no. He doesn't look good in this. His legacy as a guy is tainted. I just don't happen to think it changes. It doesn't change my opinion he's the best quarterback ever, because I don't really think this gave him any significant advantage. And you could argue, then why did he do it? Well, he's a competitive athlete.
Well, of course, and they'll do anything it takes to win, and I think this is that getting the better of him. When I look at it, do you think, you know, it's so weird because, you know, when it comes to the fumbling stats, and I didn't get into this in my column yesterday, maybe I should have. Maybe it's something that I omitted and should have concentrated on a little bit more. The fumble numbers, where you have the smaller balls with less inflation in it, less PSI, you know, those lead in the Patriots' favor. But the passing numbers, which was the real reason that Brady supposedly wanted this done for himself, I doubt that Tom Brady said, ooh, you know, if we deflate the balls, we're going to have fewer fumbles. And we don't also know when it started and where it started and when he did it and when he didn't do it. His passing numbers in the Colts championship game, which is the game in question, he played better in the second half with the inflated balls. In the Super Bowl.
And what about the Super Bowl?
He went 37 of 50 for 328 and 4 touchdowns. So what are we doing here?
And under Brady, they scored 9 points a game more in the second half of seasons. They win 85% of their games in the second half of seasons. They just start deflating balls, you know, in the middle of the season. This is the Patriots.
Who else is doing it, Sully, too?
About picking at the ways in which they're great. They're great. And this, unfortunately, gives haters, or not haters, just reasonable people, like even me, reason to just feel that they've been unnecessarily tainted. I don't think they gained any great advantage from Spygate.
You know how quarterbacks are. It's a tight-knit community, a little, you know, its own little fraternity. These guys talk. Do you think that any of them shared that secret with each other? In other words, do you think there's other guys that were doing the same thing? They're not doing it now. Or maybe some guys liked it overinflated.
I do, but I see a lot of quarterbacks said they would never do it. But maybe they're protecting each other.
Then why do you
the
think
fraternity is protecting?
Why do you think he's so defiant? Because you know what? He's not backing off from his original stance at all. And I think the reason he's going to get suspended, and the reason to me that he's going to get suspended, look, if he comes out, Sully, and says, all right, I was playing with deflated balls, okay, you know, it's not, I don't find it to be that big of a deal or whatever, you got me. He's probably fined, the organization's maybe fined, and that's about it. I think that he's going to get games now because he's been so defiant, because he's caught in a lie, and it's going to wind up costing him a lot more money than it would have if he would just paid the fine.
I'm not sure of that, because the investigation was done. The investigation would have showed all this, regardless of what he said on January 22nd or not.
So you think he should stick to his story?
There's an appearance of guilt, so the question becomes how much of a suspension.
Do you think that he should be sticking to his story, or at what point are we done with this guy? And he says, I did it. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming.
It's not Rafael Palmeiro, though. You made a great analogy in your column. It's like him looking at Congress and saying, I didn't do it. They're not going to drug test him. He can continue to deny it and say that, yeah, I wanted my balls deflated to a certain point. Everyone knew that. I talked about it. I was one of the quarterbacks that had the league, change the rules for visitors. I didn't expect these guys to go below 12.5. How are you going to, I mean, the report clearly says, or no, it says generally he had to be aware.
Right.
But that leaves him wiggle room, so he's like anyone else. He's got a lawyer who's accusing the league of having a witch hunt. He might as well have that Better Call Saul guy on there.
Well,
defending him.
You know what? Until this happens.
You know Saul, huh?
And those two guys that were working in the locker room get fired over this, and then they start talking and say, "Ooh, wait a minute here. We're going to get fired because we were under orders from this quarterback." That's when the whole thing unravels even more. Because, Sully, I'm telling you, this guy's digging a hole, and it keeps getting deeper. And if these two guys go down, they're going to come out, and they're going to say, we just got fired for this guy. Now we're out of a job. This multimillionaire is going to continue to play. And you know what? He was the one telling us to do it. So now what are we going to say? Then these two dudes were lying? It sure doesn't look like that way in the text.
I don't think they'll get fired.
So
I think the organization will say, yeah, the boys went a little too far with it. They'll pay their fine. They're a little defiant too, just like they were after Spygate. And this idea that Belichick didn't know, I guess he didn't know. It's a little hard to believe, though, that Bill Belichick wouldn't be generally aware of what's going on. And after Spygate, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. This is 2 strikes against their organization, which is bad.
That's a big deal.
And that falls on Belichick. It's his organization. I don't care whether he knew or not.
He should have known.
Yes.
All right. Now we get to the penalty phase of this whole thing. And you know that the TV networks, they want to see Brady on the field. The Patriots definitely want to see Brady on the field. The Bills do not want to see him on the field, and they're going to be in week 2. So what is the right punishment here? Does it require games, or what are you going to do? You're going to fine the guy? How much are you going to, if you're going to fine this guy, how much are you going to fine him?
Fine doesn't mean anything.
Make a difference.
The NFL rulebook says $25,000. Are you kidding me? They've fined
25
guys
grand.
more for having the wrong socks.
Right.
Bovada in Vegas says 3.5 games over and under. I would go under.
There's a line on this?
Yeah, of course. There's a line. It's 1 to 10, whether he gets thrown
and you
out
know
for the whole
line,
year.
which is even worse.
Look, I spend a lot of time researching Bucky. I just don't come in here blind. I think we'll get 2 games. I think the league will say, look, the opening Thursday night, he doesn't play. It's still a phenomenon. Everybody watches anyway. The game in Buffalo, or it's not a night game. Then he gets to play all the rest of the night games, the playoffs. This idea it'll be the full season is ludicrous. I say 2. I wonder if Bills fans would want him to be suspended for 8 games or full season and win the AFC East with an asterisk. I wouldn't want that if I was a Bills fan. I want to beat him with Brady on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe once.
It's funny that it always seems to go, it's going to be like, well, so what do you think? It's going to be 2 games or 4 games? Why can't it be 3 games? Which is why I came up with, one of the reasons I came up with 3 games. 3 games is a pretty stiff sentence. It is. I mean, that's, as I said in the column, it's the equivalent of 30 baseball games. That's a good chunk of money, and I think it's pretty harsh.
And since they're 7,
and it's a serious thing, a serious statement by the NFL saying, 2 games, it just seems, 2 games, no big deal.
2 games is a big deal in the NFL.
It is. I understand that. All right, we need to wrap it up. First, we have to get to the trivia question.
Oh, my.
Did you look at the trivia question?
I did. I got it right.
Of course you did.
Pretty easy.
In the controversial ESPN The Magazine interview, LaShawn McCoy was upset about Chip Kelly letting go which player? Vic, Bryce Brown, Trent Cole, Deshaun Jackson will have the answer in just a moment, so stay with us.